Mapping law enforcement report data, also known as crime mapping, can be an effective way to analyze where crime occurs, and it can assist law enforcement officers in discovering crime patterns, implementing corrective strategies, optimizing resource allocation, and developing crime preventive measures. It provides a law enforcement organization a way to overlay crime incidents on a digital map so they can see where, and often when, different crimes occur at a given location. Alert says areas within the criminal case to capture the address of every incident, but inserting a building or street address may not be enough, especially on a military installation where we often refer to building names or numbers, or in a remote location on or off post where there are no streets or address structures. To aid in this effort, and to enable future mapping capability, Alerts provides an area to capture the actual X and Y coordinates, where X is the longitude, think north-south, and Y is the latitude, think east-west. These fields have been present from the inception of alerts, but are often left blank as they're not yet mandatory fields. Let's take a look where in alerts we actually add these addresses and XY coordinates.
On this page here, I'll go ahead and click add. And this is going to let me add my incident. So again, where and when it happened. So I've got the dates and times, if it was on post or off, and the address. So again, you'll see required and mandatory, and required if I were to click apply or OK. It's going to let me know what I have to fill in right now in order to save this to the case. So date, time, on post, off post, and city, country for the location. So I'll go ahead and click OK. So I think I had said just a second ago, we'll just say it happened last Friday. We'll say a time. And I've purposely left in the other incident and offense some of that information that's mandatory, like the end date and time. I've left it blank so that you can see what the case quality report will look like. I'll go ahead and just leave this one blank as well so you can see that. We'll say that it was off post. Maybe they were at the bar. And I had briefly mentioned during the first hour the location. So as part of your unit, you have the ability to maintain a list of locations. So this gives you the option to search. Had we had some, we don't have any in this particular instance, it would give you the option to pick that. It'll pre-fill the address for you. So the agent doesn't have to put in the street or city anymore if they pick from the location. Otherwise, they don't have to use that. It is optional. They could just go ahead and type in that. And if you do not yet know where the location occurred, you do have the option to type in unknown. Same for the city, state, and country. Obviously, you will get a warning when you go to submit your final report that you have unknowns for the location. So it's going to prompt you to take a look at that and make sure that it really should be it is unknown. But we'll go ahead and just fill this out. There will be, right now, we do let you put in XY coordinates. There is some future updates as far as mapping and things like that, but right now it's just inputting the coordinates here in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply. So all I've done at this point is just save when and where it happened.
Yeah, if I could just jump in here for a second. It is critical. It is critical that we get the addresses right. And as critical, even though they're not mandatory yet, is to do X and Y coordinates. One of the things we're going to be working on in the next, when the new contract for our SIMS environment, our criminal investigative management systems environment, of which alerts is a big part, is to get a mapping capability in here. And so we need XY coordinates. And you can get them very easily. I mean, prior to us getting that capability in here, just by opening up Google Maps or Bing Maps, find a location, zoom in, right click on it, and it'll tell you exactly what the X coordinate is and the Y coordinate is. You can do it on your cell phone. In your minds, this should be mandatory. Because problems we run into in some cases are, they choose location and it says Church's Chicken on Fort Bragg. Okay, well, that's not enough detail. That's not enough detail. We need to know. In fact, or maybe it's a warehouse, a big AFES warehouse. Well, you can go and do that Google search, that view, zoom in, and you can get the actual XY coordinate for that back deck or door instead of just, on a larger building to get exactly where that happened. Take the time to do that, because later on when we try to give this mapping capability and plot where all these events are happening, if you're not accurate or if you're not concise in what it is, we're not going to be able to map that for you. And so get in the habit of doing that every single time. It takes seconds to do. Over.
Yep, and that's where the locations under your unit setup would become helpful. You can just pre-fill those for everybody if you wanted to, so they could just pick from the location. It'll pre-fill the X, Y, and it's already there for the agent.
We can leverage the mapping capabilities built into many of our common web browsers. In this case, I'll start with Bing, looking for the PX at Fort Belvoir. Let's say, for instance, a crime occurred on the back entry ramp to the PX. So easiest way to do it is just to zoom in on the map, go to aerial view, continue zooming in as far as you can go, find the location, right click, and it tells you the XY coordinates right here. Y. And then X can copy those to clipboard and then paste it in a text document. And again, the first coordinate is always going to be the Y coordinate. And the next one is going to be X coordinate. Can also do this with another browser like Google Maps. So again, going to searching for the same location, Fort Belvoir PX, going to that aerial view or satellite view, finding that location, zooming as far in as you can. And in this case, Google Maps happens to actually zoom in quite a bit further to get more accuracy. Find that location, right click, and again, it shows you that. Click on that, it'll copy that to clipboard. And then we can just want to compare the two. You'll see they're basically the same, although because you're able to zoom in closer on the Google map, you'll have more coordinates. But essentially, we have more than enough accuracy here for the X and Y coordinates. In fact, ideally what you want is at least 3 or 4, maybe even up to 5 places past the decimal point. And you'll see that they're close. Now let's take a look what it would look like on a smartphone. So I open my Google Maps application that's built into my government smartphone. I'll zoom in to Fort Belvoir. Let me take a look for the PX. I know generally where that's located. Let's zoom into that back dock location. And same sort of thing. If I just click and hold for a second at that location, it'll again tell me the coordinates. And notice they're almost exactly the same. So we were able to locate the Fort Belvoir PX, that rear ramp area, quite easily on Google Maps and Bing Maps and even Google Maps on the iPhone. And as we are well aware, it's here north of the equator and in the Western Hemisphere, west as compared to the prime meridian. And again, you can see it on this map here as well. And you'll notice that in the Google Map perspective, the x-axis is negative. And same thing with Bing Maps. But again, on the iPhone, it just says west. So we need to, if you're using an iPhone where it doesn't give the negative, we just need to remember where it's at and make sure that we add the negative in front of that. And if essentially what it comes down to it, if it's CONUS, the Y is going to be positive, the X is going to be negative. If we're dealing with most of USER, Southwest Asia, USER PAC, it's probably going to be in the northern hemisphere, and it's going to be to the east of the prime meridian and not quite passing over the international date line, which is kind of the opposite side of the prime meridian. So it's going to be both positive. And again, if you're going south of the equator, generally speaking, it's negative, unless you're talking about the x-axis, as you can see here.